Hey, so my name's Chris Matthews. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about how we tell stories in the Forza Motorsport universe. So I've been making games for around 19 years. I'm currently the look development supervisor at Turn 10, and I get to work on one of my favorite franchises of all time. I get to work on Forza, obviously. I've worked on some great IPs over my career, from Crisis to Homefront: The Revolution, Rise: Son of Rome, and recently hit a couple of career goals, being the art director on Star Wars Battlefront and Gears of War. So why is any of this important? And why is anybody interested other than my mum? It's essentially because all of the games that I've spent my time making are indicative of narrative storytelling and something that I'm very, very passionate about. So since my earliest days of playing video games, I'm obsessed about the characters, the universes, and the stories that were told in them. And obviously, that took a lot more imagination when there was only a 16 color palette and a 320 by 240 resolution. So things are obviously very different now. We're really, really lucky at Turn 10, well, at Xbox in general, to be working in a medium where storytelling and the boundaries of storytelling are constantly being explored and pushed. The narrative is all being changed all the time. As we know, great games are very unique in that environment, in the interactive delivery of storytelling happens over time. And as a developer, listening to the players' stories and their experiences is so very important to what we do at Turn 10. So as an art director, one area of storytelling that's really excited me is the discovered narrative in an environment, conveyed without a spoken voice and uncovered by the player as they experience a game. For those of us designing the content and creating the stories behind the narrative in Forza, this always begins with the player and understanding how they want to experience the Forza universe. So no two players are the same, and we found over time that our players experience Forza in a multitude of different ways. What brings to Forza is sometimes creativity and expression, sometimes to take part in a curated experience, and sometimes just for social engagement. And of course, we obviously have our die-hard racing fans. Right at the beginning of every development, we engage core players and listen to their stories and experiences. And this continues throughout development, giving us the opportunity to develop deep insight and empathy for our players. And this keeps us engaged at a grassroots level with long-term fans of the IP. This type of engagement has afforded us some really incredible opportunities to understand and shape the future of the Forza franchise. So the people and the drivers come together to build car culture, and they're great resources to get insights that we wouldn't be able to find elsewhere. We're lucky enough at Turn 10 to be able to build real long-term relationships with a number of drivers from varying different events all over the world. And this helps us build like a baseline of authenticity. Before we begin to design the visual narrative, we work with the drivers to discuss their experiences, often on the tracks. And this can give us incredibly emotive, subjective, and extremely human descriptions of locations that we wouldn't otherwise have access to. It's this combination of research from our players and the real drivers from these events that is the seed for all of the environmental storytelling that we do in the Forza universe. So obviously, visual narrative is incredibly compelling to players as it helps them understand the larger Forza universe and what's going on in it, second to second and race to race. As developers, visual storytelling also means that we can add visual cues, not only enhance gameplay, but also build immersive and very authentic and believable environments. I suppose most importantly, environmental storytelling helps the player have moments of discovery and realization that helps drive their investment in an experience. And like many of our players, coming back month after month, year after year to continue telling their own stories. So we want to reward the player's imagination. We want to offer delightful moments that speak to a player's passion for their kart culture, on and off the track, and create experiences that our players love sharing with each other on forums and across social media. When we develop opportunities for visual storytelling inside the Forza franchise, we play with different techniques to support the varying different types of experience moment to moment during a race. Unlike an action or adventure franchise, where you can be extremely explicit about and precise with the delivery of narrative, using a narrative diorama on the player path, our players are often moving at high speed and have to stay incredibly focused on the race ahead of them, the cars and the obstacles around them, managing not only their race, but the other cars and players on the track. So we must rely on techniques that imply a moment of narrative, such as passing a historical location, a beautiful vista, and allowing the player's driving experience and adrenaline of the race to contribute to their own larger storytelling. So we put a lot of thought into the types of narrative that we tell inside of Forza and how we implement them, and we typically break them down into the following areas. So we use spatial stories. These are moments where narrative and the environment directly connect the dots to other narrative elsewhere inside the Forza universe. It could be a moment in the pits, or in a specific corner or turn on a famous track, where the actual dressing or composition of a scene tells its own story that connects the player directly to car culture and other experiences that the player may have had in the Forza universe. In this example in Rio, the composition of the scene, the type of road surface, the vegetation, the lighting, they all work together to give a moment of exhilaration after a tight run through the city. We add authenticity to the scene by composing the track against the widely recognizable backdrop of the Cristo Mountain and the signature vista in Rio. So, alongside that, we sometimes use staging grounds. Some of the best moments in gaming are when a player has a moment to experience realization, confirming something they've already known or understand in the game that they're playing. And it helps them progress their own personal narrative inside the Forza universe. So our home space is a great example of this. We bring together trophies and rewards of races, giving the player time to reflect on their experiences and spend time creating liveries, tuning their vehicles, and telling their own stories. Time spent in a staging ground can last a few moments as well, like sitting amongst a pack of drivers at the beginning of a race and building the anticipation and setting the scene for the narrative that's about to unfold. It can last hours, like actually designing car liveries to share with the community. So this is kind of a cool thing. We use embedded narrative, so known in film as mise en scène. And this is traditionally how environmental narrative is placed inside games and film. It's a huge challenge in a racing genre, as our stories can last a tenth of a second. So placing something where a player is going to see it is kind of a difficult challenge sometimes. Through the measured composition of a scene and environmental set pieces, props, characters all come together to build a moment of realization for the player to experience. We use this type of storytelling to highlight dramatic moments like a split finish, or to frame a hero location or a technique, the technique can be used to change the personality of a track if we need to, or it can be used to precisely deliver a piece of narrative to the player. So perhaps my favorite, and maybe one of the most difficult to orchestrate types of storytelling that we do, is emergent narrative. One of the wonderful aspects of having all of these authentic locations is that we can build on the drama that already exists in the real world and tailor our art to reinforce that story and create a truly authentic piece of fan service. We see emergent narrative in our track life, building a history over the course of a race through car and environmental damage and through the build-up of rubber on the track, changing in weather and lighting moment to moment in the game. And we reinforce this with the behavior of our AI. And we do this to deliver really compelling narrative and gameplay moments. So one of the decisive lenses that we use to create narrative storytelling is the lens that tracks have personalities. All of the cars inside the game, all the cars in the real world, have distinct personalities. It's told by their stance, the lines on their bodywork, the sound of their engines, and even the types of paint that we adorn the cars with. The idea that corners have characters sometimes sounds slightly comical inside the studio, but when you begin to cross-reference driving telemetry, anecdotal descriptions given by drivers and people that have raced on the tracks, and we compare that against historical films, we can start to assign quite interesting traits that help you determine the visual dressing that you place. Some of the tracks and locations we have are described by the drivers with actual human personalities. They say something is terrible or exciting or super fun. And investing in this helps us achieve unprecedented levels of authenticity and realism seldom seen in racing games. So from the airy vistas of the Bernese Alps to the unforgiving hairpin at the end of Sebring, or the dry and dusty straights that we have in Dubai, we invest as deeply in our visual storytelling on the tracks as we do in our cars, and this helps us obviously contribute towards rich and rewarding environments to spend time in. So, this is where it gets really exciting. Once we've shipped and shared a Forza game, we find that the players of the franchise immediately begin exploring everything. They challenge every area of the universe we've created, and they begin telling their own stories. So these are all wonderful examples of stories that our players have created, and they share with us at Turn 10. And these are all taken from our Instagram stream posted by players. The community has found really interesting ways of creating their own narrative inside the Forza universe. They use a combination of the photo mode, the car tuning mode, the car livery designer, filters and the cinematic controls inside the game. And they've built their own grassroots car culture and many of their own communities. We're constantly surprised at the stories that they make, from finding the perfect lighting to highlight the TVR's flip paint, capturing a moment where dusk gives way to night in Le Mans, telling their own stories around Ken Block's Gymkhana, or even capturing the details of a classic car engine build. What we've learned, and what we continue to learn, is that there's a different visual narrative for every type of racer, from a drifter to a classic car fan, and it's very much our job to support that as creators. So if you happen to be developing your own visual narrative or happen to be making your own AAA racing game, I kind of wanted to give you guys some pro Turn 10 tips. So if you're telling a story, don't start too big. Like, we try and gather small visual moments together, and these all contribute to our larger narratives in a game. It could be car damage, it can be track age, it could be the moment-to-moment chaos during a race. When you're moving fast, you have to pass all this data in small and memorable packages, and then provide a staging ground to help the player reflect on their own stories. So we want to take the player on a journey with us. We need to make sure that those moments are authentic and recognizable to the player. We need to make sure that they can relate their gaming experiences to other experiences they've had from car culture or across other mediums. At Turn 10, we always stay as authentic as we can to the reality of car culture, from the placement of crowds to the positioning of lighting, the cars, the highs and lows of racing life. And this helps us be believable and authentic. This brings the player into our universe, but more importantly, it takes them on their own narrative journey. So we need to be flexible in our storytelling. We often stray from the track. If an AI does something unexpected or the player strays from the track, we need to make sure that the player can stay immersed and that they find something believable in the space that they end up. So when we're testing our environmental storytelling, we often stray from the track or the golden path to make sure what the player finds there is authentic and rewarding and doesn't break the believability of our overall narrative. It maintains immersion and, more importantly, helps refocus the player back on the race. And finally, don't give away too much of your story up front. We get really, really excited and passionate about the types of stories in the universe that we've created. And we have a game that contains lots of cars and real-world locations. That's a spoiler if you haven't played the game. We want to build the player's experience to last over an entire season or event, providing lots of opportunity for our fans to be rewarded and entertained by what we've created. So we rigorously plan the pace and the exposition of that narrative, both on the environment and delivered explicitly by the characters that inhabit the Forza universe. So I think we're getting kind of close to time. I'd like to leave you with a quote from one of my favorite magicians, and it's something that I've held true over the whole time that I've been art directing and telling stories in games. Sometimes magic is just someone spending more time on something than anyone else might find reasonable, and that's Raymond Teller, who doesn't speak very much, of Penn and Teller fame. What I love about this quote is it describes the tireless efforts and of the passionate creators and developers that's reflected back at us every day from our fans on Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and across all of our forums. At Turn 10, we obviously channel huge amounts of passion and creativity into the smallest details across our tracks and locations of the Forza Motorsport and across the vast open worlds of the Forza Horizon to create rich narrative universes to explore, for our players to create in and to write their own legends. Cool. Thank you very much. That's me.